DK has like infinitely more value than a Moonkin, right? In direct comparison because of those huge pulls, right? So
I would agree.
I definitely do think that having the DK here specifically is probably an advantage for Perplex, just because you just do one insane pull into another insane pull, and Moonkin is good whenever you have your cooldowns up, but whenever you have those 3-minute cooldowns down, then you're probably struggling a little bit compared to that DK,
is he playing
who just constantly can do a huge amount of damage. Yeah, it looks like Clix is actually playing Kyrian, which actually favors the damage profile a little bit from these pulls, right? Because it's a shorter cooldown on that Empower
Oh
bomb.
my, look at the Shine.
Interesting to see that there's actually doing that. Well, Shine is doing up to almost 50k DPS though, so that's not something that the Moonkin can compete with at all, as they're proccing that 20% pride on their side, and also getting that Gargoyle in. Now we have Raging again, which is something that people have been playing around in the past, where they got the Gargoyles lower before they jumped them to get the effect of the Raging, which I'm not 100% sure if it's still possible after 9.0.5, because they have changed a lot of the things. They actually also reduced the Stoneborn damage, but the Charm lasts longer now. Yes. So you actually have the pet for longer, but it does a little bit less damage.
Yes, so it ends up doing approximately 25% less damage over the full duration of the Gargoyle itself, just relative. Perplex did get their Stoneborn there into Raging before they ended up taming it, which would lead me to believe that it probably still does work, but maybe not. It's hard to say. They definitely have done some work on them. Perplex making very quick work of all of the trash packs, spawning their 40% pride there, and starting to down that. Reload Fulcrum kind of hot on their heels. Keeping up, I would say, pretty well. They're definitely doing a good job of making sure that they're keeping up the pace here. Something that they do have over that of Perplex is that they do have a Soothe, an Enraged spell for their Raging effect. I don't think that that's like the most relevant thing for like an MDI style dungeon, but it can be useful for like the Shards of Halkias whenever they do their AoE. Like, it can be pretty scary if that is Enraged, but with the dungeons being on an 18 and it being on Tyrannical, I suspect Perplex is probably just going to face tank it the whole entire time.
I hope he doesn't accidentally soothe the enraged Gargoyle before it gets mind controlled. That's nothing I have ever done accidentally, of course.
Have you ever done that?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, we're moving on as Perplex is dealing with that trash pack. They're about to finish up that chart, and it looks like they're going to be proccing that 60% pride. Yeah, there we go. So Perplexed are like one pull ahead at this point, right? They're like one whole trash pull ahead compared to Reload Fulcrum, because they just did their pulls a little bit slower. Of course, one whole pull seems like a lot of time, but it's not, right? We're only 3 minutes into this dungeon. All of these pulls are just incredibly quick. So one whole pull really doesn't mean that much, even though it's like 20% trash, but those pulls are just done so quickly in Halls of Atonement. So it really doesn't mean much, as they're now just spawned their pride as well. So definitely not too much of a disadvantage, as Perplex is moving on after their pride. And it looks like Divine Field is gathering a... Oh, he's playing Necrolord.
Necrolord? Yeah, wait.
Yeah. Wow. That's very interesting. Yeah, I don't know. That is actually a very interesting adaptation here by Divine Field, playing Necrolord. You definitely don't get any sort of benefits in this dungeon here from having that Covenant, of course, since it's a Venthyr dungeon. So there must be a different reason. I mean, we haven't seen any other Demon Hunter play Necrolord except in that Theater of Pain earlier on Rentari. But yeah, I mean, there must be a reason.
He's playing a mini as well.
Huh.
That's because more often than not, I think he would play Aramir for tank Demon Hunter. But it's interesting that he's playing a mini. I don't know. I can't explain why he would play that. Huh. He must believe it's fair damage.
Surely he knows something that we don't.
He must believe it's fair damage. I think that's like the only real logical conclusion. Anyways, circling back, Halkias down to 30% for Perplexed. Halkias at 75-ish% for Reload Fulcrum. Perplex is going to spawn their 80% pride off of this mob, kill it, and then Invisibility Potion to the second boss of the dungeon. We do know that Invisibility Potions have been a bit wonky from time to time, especially with the Fleshcraft buff. like whenever you have the Fleshcraft buff active, it can actually break you out of invisibility potion pretty reliably. And so with them being inconsistent this patch, there is a possibility that things do end up going wrong for Perplex here. It just kind of depends on what's going to end up happening. We have a nice Infernal coming in for Divine, the thing from Beyond spawning and getting taken care of quickly. And doing damage to the Manifestation of Pride.
So, I mean, one thing to note about this dungeon, right? This is a time trial dungeon.
Oh my gosh!
And Perplexed had the #1 seed with 11 minutes 38 seconds. So you can tell how fast and how quick this dungeon is going to be done. 11 minutes 38, which is just incredible, right? So you can see a skip coming in by Perplexed here as
Ryston's
they're just running past all of... Yeah, Ryston is in combat. They don't have a Shadow Melt on Ryston, so I have to get him up here. Looks like Swag is just out of...
I'm sorry,
no? What? Okay, Ashan is just going to be level
he's
resting,
building
right?
Runic Power. Okay, yeah.
Okay. So they pulled the boss to get the Runic Power.
I was like, what are you doing? So, that's a pretty aggressive strategy. It's not something you would ever really do on live. You would just like burn like the normal res. But with the Prideful buff ticking there, they just decide, all right, we're going to pull the boss. Ashan, just burn our battle res here. We don't really need it. Or rather, we're going to use that at some other point. We wouldn't use it at some other point. We'll just go for the maximum amount of time. That's how you really have to play against some teams. Obviously, they're, I don't know, decently ahead of Reload Fulcrum, even though Reload Fulcrum is having what is their best run. But you end up practicing and playing a very similar way, just overall. Reload Fulcrum, though, definitely in a position to where they could capitalize on any mistake that Perplex makes. They're making their way to Echelon right now, whereas on the side of Perplexed, Echelon down sub 40% right now.
Yeah, and I mean, there's going to be a really huge and crucial pull coming up for Perplexed after this boss. Because what we have seen most of the teams do in this dungeon is just pull the whole trash on top of the next boss. And the thing with Raging Ish is that if you manage to not immediately mind control the gargoyles, like if you actually manage to save the mind control for after they're raging, then you gain a huge amount of time because you get that extra damage.
Yep.
Which makes the pull a lot more difficult though, because once you charm the gargoyles, you get a 10% damage reduction on your group. And the gargoyles also do AoE damage with that breath that will help you out with the trash. So if you want to play it risky, you don't immediately mind control them for extra damage for like time. But it's of course incredibly risky, and this pull is already really hard in itself. So let's see how they're doing as they're gathering up everything. You see Divine Field just jumping around, leaping around, making sure everything is gathered while everyone else is using that Door of Shadows to get into that boss room.
Yeah, it definitely is pretty scary, but it's a lot of single target priority damage. Because, yeah, they do that breath, which is an AoE effect, but the real value is definitely the single target. You do see those Loyal Stoneborns not being charmed yet. They are just hitting them down. They're probably going to get them into raging before they end up chaining. Ooh, Sigil of Chains comes out. Now Sigil of Silence, being able to silence all the mobs. Trying to deal with all these Hound Masters and Obliterators and stuff. Because Divine actually started getting pretty scared there. I mean, that is an advantage of the Necrolord. Like, the Fleshcraft giving it damage reduction whenever you're channeling it, it's like really good against caster mobs that aren't meleeing you. And you are able to, like, dodge and parry and stuff now during the Fleshcraft channel. So that could be a potential thing. They could have seen it as, like, a way to be able to just mitigate more magic damage. But it's hard to really say.
Yeah, possible. I mean, he also spawned 2 of his demons, and once it exploded on the group, he actually had a decent amount of AoE damage, so it was not even that bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can see the Stoneborn still being up. Reload Fulcrum is struggling a little bit in Echelon here. Ellie's dropping incredibly low on his Vengeance Demon Hunter, but looks like they did manage to recover as the Quaking is coming out, and he's just having issues topping that tank. You can see Perplexed did mind control one of their Stoneborns when it was enraging, but it looks like this other Stoneborn is just really not dropping below 30%. They're really not focusing it at all. So it's very possible that they're just completely saving the Stoneborn for the mini-boss and the Pride, right? Because now they last longer. So it's very possible that by delaying the mind control by so long, they're actually going to get it for the mini-boss and the Pride, which is actually a huge damage increase.
Do you worry that they're going to be able to kill Inquisitor Cigar with with the nerf to the Stoneborn. I mean, we've seen in the past where groups have been kind of close on his heal. Like,
yeah, it's possible.
They were definitely close on the heal in the past, but with the nerf to the Stoneborn, how close is it really going to be? We're going to see. So basically, they have 20 seconds to kill Cigar between his casts, and whenever he does his casting, like does the drain on the ads, he heals himself based on how many ads they have left alive. And so basically, what this turns into is they have 20 seconds to burn the mini boss from 100% to 0. Otherwise, they're in deep trouble. They do have the Rage Stoneborn. Okay, they do get it down. And now the Stoneborn is
Where's he going, the Stoneborn?
He's
where's he going?
He's going on a mission to clean up those neutrals. Instead of helping with the Pride,
he
the
can't
Stoneborn,
control it, right?
he's returning to his people. I mean,
Doesn't look like it. I think this was a demon from Divine Field. That was actually a Necrolord demon. Looks like the Stoneborn is gone. Doesn't matter though. They can kill the Pride without that gargoyle. Very unfortunate for them though that they're missing out on this extra damage. I guess because you're not in combat with the Pride for a while when it spawns, but you are in combat with the neutrals at that point, right? So I guess it's just attacking whatever it feels like at that moment. And yeah, they're now fighting Lord Chamberlain here. You can see at the time in the dungeon, they're 11 minutes 25 in. So that's the time where they actually would have already been done in the time trials, right? They're 11:38 is their best time. So they're actually like 30-40 seconds slower than their time trial dungeons, which means that they did something even crazier in the time trials. But they felt like they don't have to do it here, or it could also just be that Stoneborn.
It probably involves pride skipping.
That's possible.
Probably involves the Stoneborn too. It's probably a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah, definitely possible. Yeah.
I mean, the Stoneborn nerf was actually a pretty big deal.
Yeah, true, because they played the time trials before 9.0.5, and
exactly
it lasting longer is not actually helping them that much, right? You would rather have the higher damage and it'd be shorter in the MDI, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But doesn't stop them from taking down the dungeon in 12 minutes and 19 seconds, nonetheless.
Oh, absolutely.